start your side gig while you maintain your primary source of income? What's the minimum number I need every month to just pay for everything? And that's the first stage of financial independence. So whatever that magical number is, what do I need to get there? Nice. Whatever it is that is your passion, your pursuit, how can you make that your main gig and have an income that pays it?
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I am your host, Richard Coyne. We're so pleased to have Sandhya Seshadri on our show today. Welcome, Sandhya.
Thank you so much, Richard, for the honor of coming on your show. I am excited to share my journey of multiple careers and share where I'm at today.
All right. Fantastic. Well, listen, again, we do appreciate you joining us. So if you would kind of jump right in, just tell us a little bit about your past. You mentioned several careers. So what have you done in the past? What have you, what's been your background?
So like most Asian geeks, I had a strong math background and I came in and I had an engineering degree. I have a bachelor's and master's in engineering. And I went into the tech career world in the semiconductor industry. And very quickly, I realized that us, the technical engineers, are being told what to do by the sales and marketing types. So I had to figure out how they make their decisions. So I went ahead and got a part-time MBA working in the, going to school in the evenings and weekends while I worked full-time during the day, and moved down to a more marketing and business related role and understood accounting, finance, business operations, etc. And I started running business units after that and ran large programs for the company. But as I got older and family became a bigger priority, we had children, etc., I wanted a lifestyle that supported less of a W-2 travel kind of, you got to show up today and tomorrow you got to hop on a plane to Taiwan kind of lifestyle, just in work with an infant in the house, etc. And by the time I was already part of several investor clubs, and I was making a decent living in the stock market itself, just from the stock market doing well. So I went full-time into the stock market without the W-2 tech career, and I did some part-time consulting here and there for people. Then I realized that we started doing well in the stock market. My husband still had a W-2, so I needed something that would also give me some kind of a business or tax advantage. And that's where I turned to real estate. And every time I analyze single family, and I'm based in Dallas, in the Dallas market, single family didn't appreciate quite as much back in, the early 2000s, etc. So every time I analyzed it, the margins just weren't enough for me to sign a recourse mortgage loan and, take on the hassles of tenants, toilets, termites, and trash. And I was not looking forward to a, leaky toilet phone call on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah. So I decided that wasn't for me, but I attended a weekend seminar that talked about large multifamily, where you have the economies of scale. You buy at least 50, 70, 100 doors and above, and it's all in one building. And so if one tenant doesn't pay, it's okay. You factor that into your underwriting. So now that's the only thing I do is full-time is into large operations of multifamily in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And by multifamily, I just mean big old apartments. That's it.
Nice. Okay. So you do concentrate in Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. Yeah. It's a great space. I mean, it's, phenomenal growing cities and, again, it's a place people want to be. So very nice. What are the size of the units you're talking about?
So my current assets are anywhere from 120 doors to 280 doors kind of sizes. The first deal I ever did was back in 2019. It was 86 doors. So that's the smallest commercial real estate property I've ever owned. I've never owned single family, duplex, quadplex, none of that. So I went from 0 doors other than my primary residence straight to 86 doors. And now we kind of look for that 150 sort of like a sweet spot and above. Just because then we can retain a lot of full-time staff. We like to have 2 in the office and 2 for maintenance kind of level so that we serve our residents who are our customers really well. And so that's my focus is the asset management and operations side as well as underwriting.
Okay.
In multifamily.
Right. Excellent. Very good. Very good. So in terms of just kind of back in your semiconductor IT days, is there a funny story you can share, something that happened to you along the way?
Well, I just remember it's sort of funny, but not funny, but I had to leave for a trip to Japan on a Saturday morning, and my husband should have flown back from his trip on a Friday evening. His flight was delayed by 24 hours, and we had an infant in the house.
So
I couldn't leave on my trip because my husband wasn't back. I couldn't just trust an infant to somebody else. And that was sort of like a big aha moment in my life to say, what is my priority? What am I working so hard for? Do I need this money? And does it even make sense anymore?
Yeah.
And that was one of the moments that helped me decide on, okay, I got to change this life. I can't just travel in the drop of a hat to an international destination without having a support system. And I don't need the money. So what am I doing?
Right. Right. Yeah, it's interesting, and it's really tough when you're trying to raise a family. You've got two income earners, and traveling. Even though, okay, it doesn't sound like it happened every week, you still obviously had a huge collision with your husband's flight situation, and you're having to go and not just go, but go international. So yeah, that's a real tough one. There, in my family's personal situation, we actually, I knew two circumstances. When my brother actually chose to work second shift so that he and his wife would never really have, they were both local, so they didn't have to worry about travel. But that was a choice they made to kind of just help with the ease of never having to, have that kind of a collision around childcare and things like that. And, in my personal family, we actually had, my wife and I decided that she was going to stay home with the kids when they were little. So yeah. Wow.
I ended up doing that a little bit later. It was the best decision I made because, financially and in terms of peace of mind, it was the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Very nice. So what kind of was the deciding factor for you to really say, you know what, I'm going to leave the W-2? Is it, you talked about how you made some money in the stock market, then you started doing some real estate, and you realized that you're able to sustain with your husband's income and the income produced by the investing you were doing. Was that kind of what led you to that decision? Yep, I'm done with W-2.
Yeah. When I was in W-2 itself, I was also trading in the stock market, and I was part of investor clubs just from having my part-time MBA and having a strong network of friends. We were just doing investments, and it paid off really well to where I didn't really need a W-2 income. Plus, I had a husband who was earning, and, Texas was not expensive, and we're not big spenders. We keep our cars for 10 years. My kids went to public school, kind of, we led a pretty simple life. So we didn't need the extra income. And the stress and hassles associated with supporting a second income, and all the, whether it was travels, whether it was expenses, whether it was a coordination with nannies, or the kid gets sick and you can't put them in daycare, all of those challenges were just like, what am I doing this for? I want to raise my kid. I want to be more of a full-time mom than a part-time mom. And I would just trade my stocks for an hour or two in the mornings, and that was enough. So financially, that was never a problem. A couple of hours a day, you set your trades and you're done for the day, right? You don't have to be on your computer trading stocks from 7-8 hours of the day. At least I didn't have to do that full time. And the time I got back was just priceless, right? Because corporate life is not just a 9 to 10 hour day you actually work. You also bring some of that with you. You're still logged on sometimes at night. And then in the drop of a hat, I had to leave on my travels. And so those were the reasons why it just didn't make sense for our family anymore. And I really enjoyed that a few times. I would spend my weekends with my kiddo. And my aha moment actually was when we had a nanny, and the nanny didn't work out so well. So my mom helped us out by babysitting. And my mom called and said, you know what? Your 8-month-old is now starting to hold on to furniture and walking. And I was just like, why wasn't I there for that moment? And I really, decided I wanted to be there for those moments. And that was more important to me. So then it was an easy decision. It was somewhat emotional, but it was an easy decision after that to say, this is what I'm going to do. And maybe when my kid goes to school full time and deciding whether we're going to have more children or not, I'll decide if I wanted to go back to the corporate rat race.
Right.
So that was an easy decision in that sense. And then I stumbled upon real estate much later, after being full-time into the stock market and raising kids, that I wanted some tax strategies because we wanted to keep more of the money that I was making and what my husband was making. And I just didn't have the confidence to do single family because I didn't have a handy person's background to do fixing toilets myself kind of stuff. That's not how I grew up. I was very good with numbers. So the large scale of multifamily operations makes sense. I'm good at underwriting. I can spot the issues. And now I've been, 5 years into it. Now I know exactly what a rehab is going to cost me, et cetera. So I learned the construction side of things after getting into multifamily. But the underwriting, the local market knowledge, all of that was what I had coming into the multifamily space. So you find partners who can cover your weaknesses so that as a team, you have complementary strengths and you partner well together. So I partnered on my first deal with out-of-state partners who had prior experience doing single and small multifamily, but I had the local market expertise and I was available to run around and do some of the grunt work because by the time I got into it, my kid was school age. I had two kids by then. They were both school age, and I was able to therefore be available during the day to visit properties with both partners being out of state.
That is so important what you just and what you talked about there in terms of having partners. I mean, it is a team sport. We always say that, you know, again, you don't just go buy, put it this way. If you have the luxury and the wealth to be able to go buy a 100-unit complex on your own and hire a team to do everything for you, awesome. But at the same point in time, you know, we're involved in our deals and you're involved in your deals. And, you know, and again, you've got to have a team to really kind of work and do that. I mean, there's not many people that can go buy that 100-unit complex by themselves and do it by themselves. I mean, you know,
the big challenge is that I don't have the kind of money to go buy a 100-unit apartment complex. I could go buy a single family house maybe in my area, but I can't scale. And so I need other people's money. So we raise capital, right? 70% of the deal is paid by a lender like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, etc. But the remaining 30%, what we do as a down payment, is still coming from investors. And when it involves other people's money, you can't take those risks. You have a fiduciary responsibility. So me as a newbie, I could say, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to put all my time and effort into it, but I don't know what I don't know. That's why you need partners with experience to watch out for those things, especially when you're all responsible for this business doing well to pay investors back. I don't have cash to pay back millions of dollars to investors. So the deal has to do well enough to generate the income and pay back investors. So that's why I say it's a team sport and you need team members to complement your strengths to make it successful.
Right. Yeah, these are 20, 50, 60, $100 million deals. You know, when you're talking about buying a, 100-unit complex, a 280-unit complex, you know, that could easily be close to, $80 million, maybe even higher, depending upon the level of finish that the apartment is. I mean, if it's a class A, B, or C kind of thing. So yeah, these are very large dollar deals. So, but actually, you mentioned the terrible tease. I have tennis toilets and trash, and I actually hadn't heard the termites be thrown in there, but I like that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to remember it's the terrible teas that are, and there are 4 of them. So so just as you were kind of getting going in the apartment space, again, you obviously talked about your success in the stock market, which is fantastic because a lot of people don't have success in the stock market if they're really trying to run their own investments, which is why a lot of times people are hands off and leave it to an investment advisor, a broker, or whatever. But anyway, the point is, the question is, so as you were kind of shifting into the apartment space, what were some obstacles you had to overcome?
My biggest obstacle was just the mental, thought that an ordinary person, me, could own a 100-unit apartment complex down the street that I drive by every day, right? And that was mind-boggling to know that ordinary people can do that because of the power of leverage and through the method of syndication. That was completely unknown to me. I didn't know such a thing existed. I thought you had to be a billionaire to go buy a Trump kind of billionaire to go buy an apartment complex. And so the world of syndication just opened new doors to me. The second part of it is just how many things can go wrong and how well prepared you have to be. And that's why it's a team sport. You need team members for every little thing, whether it's the termites your lender discovers, or you think, hey, this is my CapEx plan. This is the plan I have to go rehab these units. But your lender can come in and say, you know what? I need you to fix the parking lot. I need you to go check on the roof. I need you to repair these stairs, etc. They'll give you a list. And so those lender required repairs could add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Next, you have your city. So you need to follow what the city tells you for code compliance. And they might say you need to install these kind of plugs everywhere. You need to have fire hydrants in these places, whatever other requirements they have. So those two control a lot of it. And then third one is insurance. So your insurance company might have a set of requirements to even agree to insure your property. So once you get a list from those 3, you might realize I have to spend $1 million on just the repairs they're telling me before I can actually operate this property. So keep in mind that even if you have a specific plan, until you know what these 3 folks come and give you as requirements, your lender, insurance, and your city's code compliance, you don't really finalize your plan. And so just things like that you don't think
Sure.
of as a newbie. That's why you need the voice of experience when you're doing these things on a larger scale, because it's money you can't pay back. It's not like I bought a house down the street for 200K, I lost 20K, it's my money. Okay, I made a mistake. No,
Hmm.
we're talking millions of dollars of other people. They can shut down your business if you're not compliant with code.
Yep.
That means you're not generating a dime of revenue. And now you got to be responsible for putting all those residents up somewhere else till you get compliant. I mean, it's a whole big ball of wax, as I call it.
Yeah, yeah. So, when we run an apartment complex, one, we want to provide the residents with a quality place to live.
Mhm,
Two, we want to exist in the community and
mhm,
and do right by the community. But we've actually had crazy, like you said, the insurance company will tell you just something to do. We
mhm,
had, we do look for trip and fall hazards in terms of the concrete.
mhm,
Sometimes you have uneven concrete, and that's could create a trip. Well,
mhm.
we've had to do extra painting of yellow, grind the concrete down to make it even, which is obviously a safety thing, which we certainly voluntarily did. But we had an insurance company tell us, oh no, you have to paint extra lines on these sidewalks to really highlight the fact that there's a curb there. Well, it's the edge of a parking lot, so of course there's a curb there. But they said you got to paint it extra yellow. They made us fence in a playground that had been there for 30 years.
Mhm.
So we're like,
Exactly.
okay, we'll fence it in. But anyway, and then unfortunately we did have a situation where we had some residents that had been evicted, and they decided to throw all their trash out of their apartment and down into a gully behind the apartment. So we got a little love note from the county, or sorry, the town that said
City.
you got to clean that up. We're like, we didn't realize it was there. Of course we'll clean it up. And unfortunately that's money out of our pocket, but we want to obviously fit into the community and do right by the community.
Mhm.
So what was kind of your first victory? Was it that 82 unit property that you did with your co-investors, your
So the
co-GPs?
86 door property
86?
did extremely well. I partnered with two guys from out of state, and they were the brains. They knew what they were doing much better than I did. It was my first deal as a general partner. I'd only done passive investments prior to that. And it was a home run. It was
Mm-hmm.
unbelievably excellent because timing of the market also is a big deal. I mean, no
Yeah.
matter how much
Yeah.
I say we did a great job, my partners had the best ideas, and it's all of it is true because everything actually worked according to plan. We want to do these interior rehabs and get these rent bumps that happen. We bought it in 2019. We sold it in 2021. In a matter of 27 months, we were able to triple investors' money,
Wow.
which is unbelievable. So somebody who put in 100K with us got back more than 300K, 318K, in fact, was the total
Wow.
return, which is
Wow.
unbelievable. And I have to say that the cap rate compression was definitely a piece of it. It's not like
Sure.
I had some magical potion that
Yeah.
made it all work, or my partners did. A good chunk of that was just interest rates were down.
Yep.
We had underwritten it for a 7 cap, and we actually ended up selling it for like a 4.5 cap, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is unbelievable. But the other part of it is we made distributions the entire time, even through
Mm-hmm.
COVID in 2020, when some people were scared and had delinquencies going up. We didn't have that problem. And that's because, the PTA mom in me comes out, and I like to do community activities at my properties. So
Mm-hmm.
even during COVID, when we couldn't get all the residents out and do a barbecue festival kind of thing, we ended up leaving goodie bags in everybody's door. At that time,
Mm-hmm.
hand sanitizer, toilet paper, all was hard to find. So we made goodie bags with those kind of items and left it at people's doors. And, at Thanksgiving, we gave them free turkey, etc. So by building this community, when people couldn't afford to pay rent, instead of hiding inside their apartments, what they did was they came out to our leasing manager, who set up an outdoor bench, safely
Mm-hmm.
distanced, and
Mm-hmm.
helped them fill out some of those applications and saying, go to
Yeah.
this resource, here's where you can fill out. So even the 7 or 8 residents who had lost their jobs and couldn't pay were able to get us payments. And
Mm-hmm.
so our delinquency was practically nothing. I think we had one resident at the end of it all was behind in their payments on that
That's
86
great.
complex. So throughout, we were able to make distributions, which gave us investors a lot of confidence. And then we ended up tripling people's money. So when that first deal was a home run like that, those investors gave us referrals. And now, I have a whole bunch of investors saying, come on, produce those kind of results for me. And I'm like, oh, that might be a little unrealistic in today's
Yeah.
market, but real
Yeah.
estate for the long term is a little illiquid, but it's still a great investment as part of a diversified portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to consult with all the necessary professionals. Like if
Right.
somebody tells you you're going to get tax advantages, you want to talk to your accountant and see if that's real in your scenario. And you want to make sure you have plenty of liquidity to cover 6 to 12 months of living expenses, etc. So as part of your overall financial plan, I'd say it's worth looking into apartments in the right markets and right locations to see if it makes
Yeah.
sense for you, especially when it's long term. If you need the money
Yeah.
back, I had one investor who wanted their money back in like 3 years because his kid was going to college. And I said, no, that's not going to work because I don't know if I'll sell it in 3 years. He was part of my first investment, where I
Hmm.
tripled his money, gave it back in 27 months. He's like, why don't you do the same thing? I'm like, I don't know if I can sell it in 3 years. It may be a 5-year hold.
That's right.
So don't put
That's
that
right.
money if you need it within a short amount of time. Plan for a longer hold.
Yeah, exactly. These private placement memorandums,
Yeah.
first of all, we work with accredited investors,
Mhm.
but at some point in time, and obviously accredited investor has the means to be able to hopefully have their money be tied up, because you're right, it is illiquid. Again, real estate is a fantastic vehicle for asset protection, for growth, for tax benefits. But again, you're right. Each person's tax situation is different, so they really need to talk to their own accountant to find out if it's going to help them in their particular case. But at the same point in time, you're right, it is illiquid. And, at some point, maybe there'll be, tokenization that'll help liquidity, but I think that's a little down the road yet. So, I know it's coming, but the point is that, we actually had an investor as well ask for part of their money. We're like, I hear you. I empathize. It wasn't a hardship. It was just they thought they could get their money back. I'm like, no, the PPM says that this is you're part of this in for the long run. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry you didn't read that, but but that is disclosed. So
Mhm.
anyway, so I guess is there is there a funny story that you can share? Something maybe more recent that you can share?
So one of the things I like to do with my properties is I like to what we call secret shop, meaning whenever
Mhm.
we have a change of staff, or let's say we change the rents or something, I like to just call my property and see if they're able to represent that correctly. And so I called my property, and I have a property manager and a leasing manager who are both guys. And a lady answered the phone, and I didn't recognize her at all. And I was like, who are you? I'm trying to find out things. And she sounds really sleepy, like she's almost falling asleep on my phone call. And so, I don't know, I'm not interested kind of voice. I was like, okay, something's up. So I just drove straight to the property, and I discovered that our leasing manager had gotten promoted. And so he was a property manager at a different property. So now we have this new lady who has no prior experience in real
Mm.
estate. And she sounds so sleepy and groggy. And I walk into the office and I'm like, where's the PM? And she's like, oh, he's out. When is he coming back? I don't know. I'm like, this is not what I want. I think if my PM is going to be out, I'd rather have my office closed and some automated answering machine than this kind of a personality answering the
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
And so I went to the bathroom and I discovered interesting things there in the trash can. Needless to say, I went
Mm.
back to my car, sent my emails out to the property management company, and walked the lady out the same day. Needless to say,
Wow.
we found somebody else. So you just never know what you find. So
Mm.
don't forget to take a pulse on your property.
Right.
Even if it's just a simple phone call, it's going to tell you
Yep.
volumes. And so have your checklist. One of the things I do is I have a list of questions, and it's a secret shopping, and I have people doing that for me periodically,
Hmm.
just to make sure our property is represented in the best light to prospective new residents,
That's
right?
right. That's
This
right.
is you are marketing your property to new
Yep.
customers, so don't forget to do that. And so
Yeah.
it was very interesting. Turns out she was on drugs.
Oh, jeez, that's
Can
terrible.
you believe that? I'm like, guys, do you not do proper screening? It's like, we screened her. We didn't know this is what she did. She was a receptionist at another office. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, no,
That's
thank you.
that's terrible. Yeah. No, you're right. Our job is to manage the manager.
Mhm.
We really do need to stay in touch with the property to make sure everything's going well. So is there anything you do either personally or through your business that you can mention that you do to give back? And you talked about how you do resident appreciation things, but is there anything
Mhm.
else that you can mention from a giving back to help others standpoint?
We really try to keep our efforts local and as close to the property as possible.
Hmm.
So we have, summer meals programs for kids
Hmm.
where, their parents are out and they depend on that free lunch at school to get them
Hmm.
their meals. So we all organize summer meals programs. We organize health clinics or fitness-oriented things in January, typically when people are back from the holidays.
Okay.
We try to always have ESL classes or other kind of literacy kind of programs to help residents improve their credit score kind of efforts. And then we had a resident, for example, when his wife gave birth to their second child, she actually lost her life, which was
Oh.
just devastating. So he's
Yeah.
coming home with this infant and he has a toddler in the house. So we rallied around and fundraised for him to be able to pay his rent for several months. Several people contributed, including investors, brokers, all kinds of people, and donated things like diapers, etc., and supplies. So we do try to keep our help as much as possible local to our communities. And our resident activities, like whether it's, pictures with Santa, national night out. So we always try to be friendly with our local police, know who's our neighborhood police officer, et cetera, and do those programs so that we maintain a safe and healthy place. And we're always eager to help residents who have any problems or hardships. If you've been a good paying resident the last 3 years, and now you lost your job or something happened in your family situation, we try to find assistance programs to help them because we really want to keep them staying longer at our property. So if it's just a matter of a 3 to 6 month kind of time period when you're in a struggle, we'd rather retain you and get you the help you need so you're back on your feet. So again, our help tends to be extremely local to where we can see the direct impact immediately.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's great. Definitely. And again, that's a sad story about the particular gentleman, but I'm sure you appreciate it. And hopefully he's in a good place now. So
that happened 2 years ago. And so he's in a better place now. He's more financially adjusted to it, etc.
Right. What advice would you share with somebody who's considering making a path change?
I would say that straddle the two. So start your side gig while you maintain your primary source of income. And when the side gig becomes a bigger deal and it can pay off, that's the way to, I think, jump ship. First thing is to calculate your most basic living expenses. That means not the country club membership or the fancy new car, but everything else. What's the minimum number I need every month to just pay for everything, right? And that's the first stage of financial independence. So when your side gig can pay that, whether that's $5K a month or $7K a month or whatever that number might be, right? My utilities, my mortgage, my groceries, etc., without all the extra fancy travels, what is that number? Then the next one is, okay, for my current lifestyle, what do I need? Right? What's that extra last 4 or 5K I might need? Those are your two stages of financial freedom. I would say when your side gig pays for level 1, you're sort of starting to make that work optional or the main gig optional. And then when you get to that second stage, you're totally ready to break free. So whatever that magical number is, let's say it's 10K a month, seems to be a favorite target among a lot of people. What do I need to get there? Like today, my side gig is only generating 1,000 a month. Where can I find either the extra hours or outsource it? Right? So I can hire more people and I can build a business. If I'm just mowing lawns for 2 houses on a weekend, how can I build a business of it by hiring people so we can mow 10 lawns, right? It's sort of how do you scale so that your side gig starts to pay the bills and you can shift. So whether that's with passive income or anything else that you love doing, right? My cousin loved to play golf. And then he became so good at it, he actually wanted to live his life in the golf course. So he started teaching golf as a side gig. Now it became his main gig, and he quit his W-2. So whatever it is that is your passion, your pursuit, how can you make that your main gig and have an income that pays it?
Right. Well said. Very well said.
So like in my case, I wanted the lifestyle of being home with my children, and no W-2 was going to let me do that. Like even if I worked from home on a computer, I can't have a screaming infant in the background, right? I can't really focus on my work. So I really needed something where I could just work 1 or 2 hours of the day and be a full-time mom, right? So whatever that might mean. Or are you willing to work late in the evenings? Are you willing to find that 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. time before you need to be available for your family? So what are you doing, whether it's 5 to 8 or, at night from 9 or 10 p.m. till midnight, right? Find those extra 3 hours a day and then couple of, 4 to 5 hours on the weekends. And there you have at least 20 hours a week built into your schedule to build that side gig even more.
Right. Well said. Well said. So Sandhya, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you to say hello and find out more about what you're up to?
I'm very active on both LinkedIn and Facebook. Okay. And then my company website is engineered-capital.com. Okay. I also have a monthly webinar for passive investors. It's called acepassive.com. And I have a mastermind to help current operators improve their operational efficiencies, manage their asset better. And that's aceoperators.com. So those are all the different ways you can find me. And of course, through you, Richard. If they're listening to this podcast, they know you and they can connect to me through you.
Absolutely. So we'll put links to our show notes and those so people can reach out to you. And again, really want to appreciate you for being on the show. So thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. So please reach out to Bill and myself. Happy to have a conversation anytime. parkcapitalpartnersllc.com, parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. Again, reach out to us, find out more about what we're up to, like our 506c fund that's open today to accredited investors, as well as our Park Capital Partners Foundation, where we make donations to honor our investors when they invest with us to a pre-selected list of 15 different charities. Some are designed to help residents in terms of preventing homelessness. Some are designed for helping those in need through various food charities, et cetera, et cetera. So please reach out. And again, thank you so much, Sandhya, for being on today's show. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Absolutely.